Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. A good Friday morning to you. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson. Wilson looking at the new stuff that's coming out from the National Hurricane Center down in Miami.
The 8 o'clock fix is in, and it has shifted about 40 miles east. Not west.
So getting closer to Tampa.
Well, they're going to make little adjustments as they go forward. So it's got to go east, it's got to go west. But it's still well clear of Tampa at this moment. I think we're going to be okay.
But it is moving closer to Tampa's direction, is it not?
By about 40 miles.
Okay, I'm just after the facts, that's all. Thank you for that. Jake Tapper joins us now, senior White House correspondent for ABC News. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning. How are you?
Are you going down to Tampa, or are you staying up here?
I'm not. I'll be covering President Obama, and he'll be on the campaign trail, so I'll be with him there. But then I'll be down in Charlotte for the Democratic convention.
Maybe I'll run into you down there.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so I want to start with you made some waves. A lot of people in Republican circles say, hey, what did you hear what Jake Tapper said with Laura Ingraham on her radio show the other day when you said that, hey, you know what, maybe the media isn't paying as much attention as it should on the economy. And you also said that you thought the media may have helped tip the scales in 2008, either unfair to Hillary or John McCain. Can you expand on that a little bit with us?
I mean, sure. I mean, I've said it before in 2008, and there are a lot of reasons for it, but and certainly this is not the reason President Obama won, but in 2008, I didn't always think the coverage was the fairest for Obama versus Hillary Clinton or Obama versus John McCain. And that's not to say he didn't run the superior campaign. He didn't have, he wasn't a better candidate and all the rest. I'm just saying, and sometimes when it came to narrative, story selection, photos picked, placement of stories, I just didn't always think it was as fair as it could have been. Now, the other issue is a separate issue, which is just the media in general. Even though obviously I think ABC News does a great job, the media in general, I think that there is, there isn't enough attention devoted to the economy and to major economic issues and to the war in Afghanistan. Now, to a degree, I think it's fair to say that the media takes its cues from its readers and its listeners and its viewers. So, to a degree, it's because the public isn't as engaged in these issues as certainly when it comes to Afghanistan. That's the reason. But I do wish that there was more, on a personal level, that there was more coverage of the economy and the war.
You in the daily briefing were asking Jay Carney some pretty harsh questions about the CBO report that came out. I mean, the CBO report was pretty dark and dire about what needs to be done to solve the problem. Something needs to be done, and laying out a pretty dark scenario if something is not done before the tax increases go into effect and before sequestration starts to kick in.
That's right. I mean, this is not news to those of us in Washington who follow this, but the payroll tax cut is set to expire. The $4 trillion in Bush tax cuts are set to expire. And then there's the failure of the super committee to come up with $1.2 trillion in cuts means these automatic mandatory cuts to the social programs and to the Pentagon budget. And the CBO issued a report saying that if this happens, it could certainly send the country back into a recession. I was, in addition to the CBO, the other thing the CBO said of note that I thought was that we're about to projecting a fourth straight year of $1 trillion deficits, annual deficits. I was just surprised that given such a serious warning, I was surprised that President Obama hadn't said anything about it. Now he's on the campaign trail, and to be honest, probably very few politicians in Washington talked about the CBO report because it's an indictment of leadership, not just President Obama, but John Boehner and Eric Cantor and Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. It's an indictment of our leaders in Washington who are failing us. We all see this fiscal cliff. We all know it's coming. And the fact that there is not an ability or a willingness to come up with a compromise to prevent the country from this and to create this instability in the world and in the markets is a tragedy.
You know, we had Andrea Seabrook on the show earlier, and she was expressing sort of the same thing I'm hearing from you. A tremendous frustration with the way the town operates right now, where you can't get people to focus on the issues and people duck and dodge and just stick to their talking points. Are you feeling that frustration?
It's just disappointing. I mean, I think Now, what you'll hear from the other side is President Obama and his team will say, we're ready to have this conversation anytime, but we need a balanced approach. Every bipartisan commission that's ever looked at the issue of deficit reduction has said it needs to be balanced with spending cuts and tax increases. And Republicans aren't willing to go along with that. If you talk to Republicans, they say John Boehner had put revenue on the table. He put tax increases on the table in the form of tax reform and $800 billion worth of new revenue. And President Obama changed the terms of the deal, and that scotched those grand bargain negotiations. I think both sides have a point.
Yeah, well, see, that's what I say. I don't want to defend Congress here, but they're elected to represent the people who vote them into office, and aren't they doing what they were sent there to do? I mean, they're basically waiting for the election to show them for the election to be the compass of which way we're going to go on a whole host of things, including the fiscal cliff. And
yeah, what's interesting about that is on this week, on Sunday, I moderated a debate about this issue, about the fiscal cliff and about the longer-term fiscal problems the nation faces. And Senator Pat Toomey, who was on the super committee, said that they were waiting for the election to get some clarity. So I said, so if President Obama is reelected, does that mean that Republicans will be willing to go along with some tax increases along with the spending cuts? And Senator Toomey said, basically no, that the clarity they were waiting for would be Mitt Romney getting elected.
Yeah, I mean, the clarity they're looking for is that it goes their way.
Right, yeah. Exactly. But President Obama getting elected, it didn't seem that
change
you would
anything.
interpret that as clarity.
Yeah, but don't you think, though, it would be? I mean, that's going to change, though. I mean, after the election, if the president wins re-election, the Republicans are going to have to deal.
I don't know. I mean, the other thing Toomey said that was interesting was that he put revenue on the table towards the end of the super committee negotiations, but he was willing to go along with some tax increases in some way. But the spending cuts that the Democrats needed to come up with on their side, it couldn't just be trims. It had to be some significant changes to entitlement programs so that there would be long-term fiscal solvency. Now, he didn't go into detail about what that meant. I suspect what he means would be either means testing Medicare even further, or perhaps raising the retirement age, or agreeing to. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for him. But that's sort of long-term change. So
I noticed that the Obama campaign is sending Joe Biden down to Tampa. While that's not unprecedented, it is sort of unusual, isn't it?
It is unusual, absolutely. And we asked the Obama campaign held a briefing for reporters yesterday with a bunch of senior officials from the campaign. They pointed out it's not unprecedented, but that there are 75 or so days until the election, and they're not going to rest on any of them, So they will be there to respond to things that are said during the Republican convention. President Obama will be on the campaign trail, and I'm sure that this is me speaking now. I'm sure Republicans will do the same thing. I mean, whether or not they send Republicans to Charlotte, I seem to recall. I've been to a lot of these conventions. There's always some big presence from the other party at the other side's convention. It's usually not the vice president, but there usually is some, whether it's the party chairman or prominent governors and senators, there's usually some, force to counter whatever's going on stage.
What they call a truth squad. Yeah.
All right, Jake, good to have you on as always. We appreciate it.
I don't call it that.
I don't either. Yeah. Go ahead.
Jake Tapper, ABC Senior White House